Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is November 6, 2023, and Barcelona are set to play another Champions League match tomorrow against Shakhtar Donetsk. Also, it's been revealed that a Barcelona defender has not been 100% fit and has been playing with a lot of physical problems. And finally, I will discuss several of the options that Barcelona are currently considering for that pivot position come the summer transfer market. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo and this is Barca News' official live stream, which is on every Mondays and Wednesdays, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But today I had to schedule it for 7:30 due to some technical difficulties. That, as always, I will be covering a segment of news and then heading to the chat section in order to answer any questions and get any discussion going. And of course, for those of you who will be watching the live stream when it ends, I will be adding timestamps in the descriptions and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion. Now, having said all of that, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment because YouTube's just changed their algorithm where they really favoring comments and likes and where they promote videos based on how many likes and comments a video gets. So please help me out, guys. Hit the like button, drop a comment. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be just a hello, an emoji, whatever it is, because that's what's going to continue helping in this channel grow. Now, if you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure you hit the kit bag. And if you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure you hit the Bet Us. Both links are in the description. Now, let's start with the news because I'm officially back home. I was on a trip this weekend, so I didn't post a video for a couple of days, but I'm officially back. I'm in my home. I'm in my YouTube studio, so it's back to your normal schedule with your live streams and your videos. And, of course, tomorrow there will be a post-match live analysis. But let's start with the news because there is a lot to cover, starting with the Barcelona have officially landed in Germany ahead of tomorrow's Champions League match against Shakhtar Donetsk, which will be the fourth match in the group stages. Now, Barcelona so far have won the first three matches against Shakhtar Donetsk and against Royal Antwerp and against, I'm forgetting the Portuguese side. I always forget this team, Porto. I always confuse Porto with Benfica. But Barcelona have 9 out of 9 points so far. And if they win tomorrow's match against Shakhtar Donetsk, then Barcelona will be guaranteeing their qualifications to the knockout stages, which is something that Barcelona have failed to do these past 2 seasons. Now, Barcelona have officially released the names of the players that have been included in the squad list and have traveled to Germany in order to play against the Ukrainian team Shakhtar Donetsk. And the team list is as follows, and I will make this bigger for you so you can see it better. But the players that have traveled to Germany are Mark ter Stegen, Joao Cancelo, Alejandro Valde, Ronald Araujo, Íñigo Martínez, Gavi, Ferran Torres, Pedri, Robert Lewandowski, Rafinha, Iñaki Peña, Joao Felix, Andreas Christensen, Marcos Alonso, Oriol Romeo, Ilkay Gundogan, Jules Koundé, Astralaga, Lamine Yamal, Marc Casado, and Fermín López. Now, Xavi Hernandez did give a pre-match press conference where he spoke about what he expects in tomorrow's match, and he addressed something very important, which is the lack of intensity that the team have had in their last few matches, whether it was this past weekend against Real Sociedad or the matches against Sevilla or Athletic Club de Bilbao. And while Xavi addressed that concern during the pre-match press conference, when he said, and I will take this logo so you can read it better, but Xavi said, "We always summarize what happened. We were missing things due to the intensity that we lacked and the superiority that La Real showed. We must have more control of the game, and that means using a more aggressive high press. If we are honest, against Real Sociedad, we were not doing things well in the game. Against Real Madrid, we were, also against Athletic and Sevilla. Against Real Sociedad, in the end, we had faith. The first half was not acceptable, but without being good, we reduced the disadvantage with Madrid and Atletico, and that must be a turning point. So Xavi Hernandez addressing something very important here, which is the lack of intensity that the team have had these past few matches. And he highlights something very important, which is that this cannot happen again, because we saw what happened against Real Madrid, where we took the foot off the accelerator and Real Madrid ended up coming back from behind and winning. But also against La Real Sociedad, we got really lucky with that last-minute goal. And even against Shakhtar Donetsk, the last match where we really played well during the first half and then again reduced the intensity during the second half, allowing Shakhtar Donetsk scoring a goal. So we can't really repeat that. And hopefully, as Xavi said, this will be a turning point, because if the team continues to do this, it will end up hurting us in La Liga race and in the Champions League and all the other title races that we're currently in. Now, Xavi Hernandez has officially turned, this is his second year anniversary at the head or at the helm of Barcelona as Barcelona's coach. So he was asked during the pre-match press conference what he thought about these 2 past years where he has been head coach. And in regards to that, Xavi Hernandez said, "We've been fulfilling the objectives that we had set for ourselves. We arrived at a difficult moment. In our first season, we saved the season. In the second one, we won 2 titles. Now we have to achieve excellence. We are halfway to recovering a great Barca. The summary is positive. I am happy, but we are halfway to total success, which is Barca in Europe and continuing to compete in a domestic competition." So Xavi Hernandez summarizing his last 2 years here, of course, referring to that first half season where he arrived, taking over Ronald Koeman, and he said he saved the season, meaning that he, of course, helped Barcelona qualify to the Champions League, because when Xavi Hernandez took over, Barcelona were in the 12th position on La Liga table, and I think we ended 2nd or 3rd. So saving the season as, allowing Barcelona to qualify to the Champions League for the next season. Of course, his first full season as a coach, he did win 2 titles with La Liga and the Copa de España or Supercopa de España or the Super Cup. And now, of course, the objective will be to remain in Europe, which means qualifying to the knockout stages and do well and hopefully, of course, win more titles. So that's been the recap of Xavi of his 2 seasons, or 2 years, I should say. What do you think? Do you agree with that Xavi's doing a good job? Is he really meeting the objectives, or do you think differently? Let me know in the chat section. And of course, speaking of the chat section, let's do some comments and then we'll continue with the news, because I do have a couple updates about 2 injured players. But let's, of course, do the chat section first. And I see Arnold says, "Hi, Mo. I'm back to US from Africa. Glad to catch the live stream." What's up, Arnold? I'm glad that you're back. Hopefully you had a good trip. I remember when you told me you were about to leave. So hopefully you had a good trip. And I'm glad to see you back in the live stream. Arnold also says we should give it up on Zubimendi because he's not that impressive pivot that Barca needs. I will talk about Zubimendi in upcoming segment, so I don't want to do any spoilers. But Lincoln, who says, "Hey, Mo, what do you think is needed to improve the team performance?" It's a good question. We definitely are lacking mechanisms. And what I mean by that is plays, handbook plays where each player knows what to do when they get the ball, where to pass it, where to run. We don't have those mechanisms in place where players know what to do. It seems like whenever a player gets the ball, they look around, they're kind of thinking, okay, what should I do? Who should I pass it to? We need to implement those mechanisms where we have those plays that are instilled in the players where they know, okay, if I get the ball here, I know I'm going to give it to that guy. That guy's going to run. That guy's going to give it to that guy. Those pre-planned plays that kind of define tiki-taka. Tiki-taka wasn't a freestyle. Tiki-taka was planned ahead of time. Players knew what to do when they got the ball, who to pass it to, where to run, what space to hit. That was all planned ahead of time, and that's what the team needs. They don't have those mechanisms in place. They only have, they only get the ball, and then they think about, okay, let me see, what do I do? And you can't do that, because by the time you figure out what you should do, the opposing team also has figured out what you're about to do. So they're going to close the space. They're going to mark you, or they're going to mark whoever you were planning to pass the ball to. And that's what is really hurting the team, because that's what makes the ball circulation so slow. Because if you're going to get the ball and then think about what you're going to do with it, by then it's too late. You got to know, as soon as I get the ball, who am I going to pass it to, or where am I going to run? because that's how you circulate the ball fast, and that's how you stay unpredictable, and that's how you prevent the other team from knowing exactly what you're trying to do. All right, let's get back to the news because we do have to talk about Pedri, and I'll make this smaller. But of course, we all know Pedri has been injured for 2 months. I think it was 70 days or something like that, a little bit over 2 months. He just got declared fit. He just got back to play against Real Sociedad. He played, I think it was 33 minutes during the second half. So he just became healthy, and there's already talks about Spain calling him up for that international break. There is an upcoming international break, a FIFA international break, and there's already talks about the Spanish coach thinking about calling up Pedri. There's even talks about, Spanish coach coming up with some kind of plan with Barcelona to make sure, they give Pedri enough minutes, but not too many minutes where they can, take care of him and make sure he doesn't get injured. And I got to be honest, I don't like any of this. Even if there is some plan that Barcelona and Spain can agree to take care of Pedri, to safeguard him, to make sure he doesn't get injured, I don't like it one bit. Again, this is a player who has gotten injured a lot in the past. The reason he's gotten a lot injured in the past is because that season with Ronald Koeman, where Koeman was playing him 90 minutes of every single match, of every single competition, and then Spain took him to the Olympics, and I think they also played a Euro Cup or the Leagues Cup. In that season, he was overplayed so much that now he's paying for it through constant injuries. And he just came back from injury, and already there's talks about calling him up to Spain. And I really think this is one of those cases where Barcelona need to put their foot down and say, you know what? No, Pedri's not going to the Spanish team during this international break. Enough is enough. He just came back from a 2-month injury. He's a player who's gotten injured a lot for being overplayed. Enough is enough. Let's not allow him to go to the international break with Spain. Now, there's talks that the Spanish coach will decide by this Friday the team who he's going to call up. Hopefully, he doesn't call up Pedri, but if he does, I really think that Barcelona should put their foot down and tell Spain, sorry, but he's not going because we need to protect this guy. The reason he got injured is because we failed to protect him in the first place. Let's not repeat that mistake, and let's protect Pedri. Another guy that I do want to talk about is Andreas Christensen. Of course, we have seen the defender Christensen lose a lot of minutes this season. Some of it has been because of the rise of Íñigo Martínez, who has finally found his form and has been spectacular in all the matches he's played in. But now it's been revealed that there's another reason why Andreas Christensen has lost a lot of playing time, where I think he's only completed like 5 matches out of all the matches so far. And the reason is that Andreas Christensen has been playing with pain in his Achilles tendon this whole season. So Andreas Christensen has been dealing with this pain since the season began. When he plays, apparently he feels a lot of pain, so he's been playing through the pain. So he has not been 100% fit. And that's another reason why we've seen Andreas Christensen not play as much, or even when he does play, seen him getting substituted out, because it seems that the player is not 100% fit. So hopefully now that Íñigo Martínez has found his form, hopefully now both Araujo and Koundé are fully recovered. Hopefully we can give some rest to Christensen, give him some therapy so he can recover from this injury and he can be 100% fit, because of course Andreas Christensen is one of the best center backs right now in Europe, and it'd be a shame to see him not playing more minutes with Barcelona. All right, so let's get back to the chat section, and then we will start talking about the possible options for the pivot position that Barcelona are considering this upcoming summer. And let's see. Arnold asks, by the way, how was your trip, Mo? My trip was amazing. I took a weekend trip to Washington, D.C. I live in New York, of course. That's only about 4 hours away. So I went to see some friends. I went to see some family. It was a really good trip. Thank you for asking. I got back today, but now, again, back full time now. So back to your regular schedule. Abbas says, hey, Mo, as a Barcelona fan, I appreciate the dedication you have to Barcelona. Keep it up, bro. Watching from Sierra Leone. Thank you, Abbas, for your awesome words. And thank you for always being there in the live streams, for always commenting on the videos, for your constant support to the channel. So thank you, 1,000 times thank you. And to all of you guys as well who are currently watching. All right, let's see. Arnold says, do you think Pedri is fit enough to start tomorrow against Shakhtar? I think so. He's been declared fully fit. I know his recovery actually was longer than anticipated. And I know Barcelona took every extra precaution with him, even delaying his return on purpose because they really wanted to be 100% sure with him. I think he is fit. Now, will he start tomorrow? I'm not sure. But if he did, he is ready, physically speaking. All right, Skinny Koala says, Pedri shouldn't play full 90 minutes unless it's a very important game. I mean, again, he is fully fit. He's fully recovered. He could play entire 90 minutes. We'll see if he will tomorrow. My hunch is probably not. I guess he'll start, but then maybe come off in the 60th minute. We'll have to wait and see. Either way, we got plenty of options in the midfield. Gabi is back from suspension. We got Gundogan. We got Fermin Lopez. We got Oriol Romeo. You know, we're covered. So if he doesn't play a full match, we'll be fine. All right, speaking of the midfield, let's talk about the pivot position because as I've reported many times before, Barcelona's number one priority in the summer of 2024 will be to reinforce the pivot position. Of course, Barcelona just signed Oriol Romeo this past summer, but of course, that's the only pivot that Barcelona have. So Barcelona are looking for a reinforcement, someone that can rotate with Oriol Romeo, and more importantly, someone that's more long-term solution. Because, of course, Oriol Romeo is 33 years old, so he's not going to be at the club forever. So Barcelona needs someone who is younger, who can be at the club for much longer once Oriol Romeo ends up leaving. So Barcelona are considering several options. Of course, as always, when a club decides to sign a player for a position, they don't just consider one player. They consider a long list of players because, of course, not every player on your list you're going to be able to sign. Some will be too expensive. Some their clubs are not going to want to sell them to you. Some the players are not going to want to come to your club. A lot of things can happen, so you have to have several options. We talked about two options in yesterday's video, which was, of course, Gabriel Moscardo being the main option for Barcelona. They're also considering a low-cost option in Guido Rodriguez. But now 3 more names have emerged, and one of those names is Martin Zubimendi, which we have talked about, of course, a million times this past summer. He's Xavi's number one option for the pivot position. Xavi considers Zubimendi to be the right man for the job. And of course, Barcelona were unable to make any headway on his signing this past summer because he decided to renew his contract with Real Sociedad, increasing his release clause to 60 million euros, which is something that Barcelona could not afford. And even if Barcelona could afford, of course, Zubimendi said that he was not interested in coming to Barcelona or even to Arsenal, who are also very interested in him because he wanted to play the Champions League with Real Sociedad. Of course, he's someone who is from Basque Country. He grew up in Basque Country. He came up through the Real Sociedad Academy, so he's 100% Real Sociedad fan. So, of course, his dream was to play the Champions League with his childhood team, and that's exactly what he's doing. Barcelona were unable to make any headway on his signing, but it is reported that Xavi could insist on Zubimendi once again this upcoming summer. Now, I had said in this past summer that Barcelona should move on because I wasn't really that impressed with Zubimendi. And for that, I do apologize because I have to take my words back. I have to eat my words because if you did watch the match against Real Sociedad this past weekend, he put out a masterclass of a performance against Barcelona. Amazing performance by Zubimendi, probably the best player on the field that night on both sides. He had amazing ball recovery. I think he only lost the ball once or twice. He was breaking line with his passes. I mean, absolutely amazing performance. And that's not the first time that he's done that against a big team. He's done that in the Champions League against Real Madrid. So definitely, we could see what Zubimendi was capable of this past weekend. I can see now why Xavi Hernandez has been insisting on Zubimendi for so long. I can see why Mikel Arteta has been insisting on Zubimendi. After all, they're the football experts, not me. So those two guys are insisting that he is the perfect pivot for their style of play. Who am I to say otherwise? But the news is that if Zubimendi continues in his form, because he's had a spectacular form this season, we might hear Xavi insisting on him once again, because again, he has always been Xavi Hernandez's number one option for that pivot position. All right, let's get back to the chat section, and then we'll talk about the second option that Barcelona are considering for this summer for the pivot position. And let's see. Christopher says, Mo, this is my first live stream. Wish you all the best, man, and Visca Barça. Times may be tough, but always got to have faith in this beautiful club. Thank you, Christopher, for joining the live stream. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you in more. And yes, Visca Barça, and we should always support our club no matter what they are. And my boy Choo Choo joining the live stream. Says Zubimendi is an above-average CDM. Don't know what Xabi sees. You know, I agreed with you before, but I think I'm changing my mind after what I saw this weekend, after what I saw his highlights from the Champions League so far and against bigger teams. I think he is – I can see what Xabi sees in him. I can see what Arteta sees in him. And more importantly, you do have to take into account that he does play for Real Sociedad. And that goes for any player. Whenever you're considering a player how good they really are, you really have to take into account what team they play in. You know, Lionel Messi with Barcelona is not the same as, I don't know, Lionel Messi with Levante, right? Or Leganés, right? That's just to put like a really extreme example. Players do, after all, need, it is a team sport after all, and the players around you do make you better or worse. So I could see why perhaps maybe Zubimendi is not someone who you could think of, oh my God, he's amazing, because after all, he does play for Real Sociedad, and I think Zubimendi in Barcelona or in Arsenal would probably be a lot better than what Zubimendi is at Real Sociedad. Not to knock Real Sociedad because they have been playing amazing this season. And again, we're seeing it reflected in the performance of Zubimendi, who's had an incredible season so far. And we saw it against Barcelona. All right, Katadad says, hey, Mo, been here since you started. Not a big talker, though. This is my first comment. I like your content. Keep it up. Visca Barça. Catalunya, let's cut Xabi some slack, like if he wants to try it 3-5-2. Thank you, Katadad, for always being there, for supporting, and thank you for your first comment. Hopefully, we'll see more of those comments. All right, let's get back to the news, because we do have to talk about the second option that Barcelona are considering, or reportedly considering, for the upcoming summer. I have my doubts about this option. I'll tell you why in a little bit, but let's talk about who it is. And today's Sport, the media outlet Sport, reported that Barcelona are supposedly interested in signing Florentino Luis. Now, this is someone I talked about this past summer. If you don't recall who he is, Florentino Luis, he's 24 years old. He's, of course, defensive midfielder, currently plays for Benfica. He did have a little bit of a slow start this season, but he's regaining his form, and he's once again shining from Benfica like he did last season. He had a really good season last season, and it's reported that Barcelona are considering him on their short list for the pivot position. Now, I said at the beginning of this segment that I had my doubts about this option, not because of the performance of Florentino Luis, not at all. He's an exceptional midfielder. The reason why I have my doubts about this report being true is because Florentino Luis has a contract until 2027 with Benfica, and he has a 120 million euro release clause. Yes, you heard that right. His release clause is 120 million euros. And it's something, of course, that would be absolutely prohibitive for Barcelona. There's no way that Barcelona would be able to afford that release clause. But according to the media outlet Sport, they're reporting that Barcelona are confident that they can negotiate a deal with Benfica to sign Florentino Luis for 40 million euros. Now, I also have my doubts about this, because Benfica, if there's anything we know about Benfica, if you've never watched Benfica play, but you had to think about one thing about Benfica, is that they are a selling club. What they do is they sign these young players for a very low cost, and then they sell them for incredibly high profits. So if this guy has a 120 million euro release clause, I see no reason for Benfica to accept 40 million euro offer. There's absolutely not. That's not how Benfica operate. If Benfica going to sell Florentino Luis, you bet your ass they're going to look to maximize their profits. So I have my doubts about this report, even though it is Sport who are reporting this. But nonetheless, that's the news. I bring it to you. You guys decide. In my opinion, very, very highly unlikely that this option could materialize. But let's get back to the chat section, and then we will talk about the third option that Barcelona are reportedly considering. And this option could be more feasible than the Florentino Luis option. Thomas says, thoughts on Torres and Rafinha? Do you think they are good enough for Barca? Rafinha, I've said it ever since last season, and everybody attacked me for it and hated me for it and said I was crazy and that I was a hater and blah, blah, blah. But I've always maintained that Rafinha was never Barca level to begin with. I really think Barcelona should sell him. We'll see. I know Xavi did not want this past summer to sell Rafinha. He considered him fundamental for the team. But now we have seen Rafinha perhaps not as active with the first team, with the prominence of Lamine Yamal, with the signing of Joao Felix, with Ferran Torres regaining some of his form. We've seen Rafinha lose some of that protagonism. So who knows? Maybe Barcelona will eventually decide to sell him this upcoming summer. But in my opinion, Rafinha was never Barca level. As far as Ferran, he's not Barca level to be a starter. But I wouldn't mind Ferran being on the bench. I think he's a good player to bring on the last, 20, 30 minutes of the match. Maybe you're losing. Maybe you're tied. You can bring Ferran Torres and, count on him to score you that last-minute goal that wins you the match or that draws the match. I think that's a good option. But, again, we did pay for him $55 million. So I don't know if someone we paid $55 million should be on the bench. So that's where really, I get a little bit conflicted. But I would like to see Ferran, someone, who can come off the bench the final minutes. Rafinha, I say I'll sell him because he does have a good market value. For Ferran Torres, for us to sell him, we still have to wait at least another season so we can recover some of the money that we spent on him, or at least wait for his value to go up. So if I was Barcelona, I would keep Ferran, as someone who can come off the bench, and then I would offload Rafinha and try to cash in on him. All right, Romain says, honestly, not going to hold my breath on anyone. I just want to see us making good signings for the present and future. All right, cool. Oscar says, honestly, I'd be getting upset. Like Aston Villa and West Ham and Newcastle can make bigger signing than us, especially. Well, they have oil money. And when you have oil money, you can sign anyone. We can debate whether oil money is ruining football or is making it better. But that's a separate conversation. But when you have oil money, you can sign whoever you want. And that's the sad reality. But let's get back to the news and let's talk about the third option that Barcelona are reportedly considering for the pivot position this upcoming summer. And that option is Wilfred Ndidi. Now, if you don't know who Wilfred Ndidi is, he's a 26-year-old midfielder who currently plays in Leicester City. His contract is set to expire in the summer of 2024. And it's reported that Barcelona are considering signing him as a free agent. Now, given Ndidi's experience, given his pedigree playing in the Premier League, given his exceptional current form right now, he's having a great start to the season in the Premier League. Barcelona think that he could be a good or at least interesting option to reinforce the pivot position come this summer. Now, this is why I said that this is more of a realistic option than perhaps someone like Florentino Luis, because, again, his contract does expire in the summer, so Barcelona could sign him for free, and that's something we can't afford. We can't afford free, thank God. It'd be sad if we can't even afford free. So this is why I said it's a more realistic option, but Barcelona do have a lot of competition when it comes to the Nigerian Ndidi. See, in La Liga, we have Atletico de Madrid, who are also interested in signing him. In the Premier League, we have Newcastle, Tottenham Hotspur, Aston Villa, and Brentford, all four clubs who are also interested in him. And more importantly, they're looking to sign him this coming winter because they know his contract will expire in the summer. So they're looking to make a bid this winter because, of course, Leicester City will probably prefer to sell him this winter so they can make some money versus losing him for free in the summer. So Atletico Madrid in La Liga competing with Barcelona for Ndidi. 4 clubs in the Premier League competing with Barcelona for Ndidi. And that's not it, because there are 2 Ligue 1 clubs who are currently keeping tabs on Ndidi They're seeing if his contract expires or not. And maybe they could make a move for him in the summer. But the two Ligue 1 clubs are Monaco and Lyon. So that's a total of 7 clubs that Barcelona would be competing for Ndidi. So more realistic price-wise, but can Barcelona pull it off with so much competition, especially with heavy competition from teams like Newcastle and Aston Villa who have very deep pockets? We'll have to wait and see. But just know that this is another name on the long list of Barcelona to reinforce the pivot position next summer. Now let's get back to the chat section, and then we will do one last bit of news about Carlos Puyol, and then we will wrap it up. Carlos says, I like Rafinha's passion. He hustles, something a few Barca players ain't doing right now. He just has to play down the middle behind Lewa. It seems like he plays better there. Look, I like his work ethic too. I think Rafinha is a very hard worker. He trains hard. He plays hard. He never gives up. You see him running up and down the field all day, but that's not enough for Barcelona. Just running is not enough. You have to bring something more to the table, especially when you cost 60+ million euros, especially when you were signed as some supposed star signing. I need to see more. I need to see some one-on-one. I need to see some dribbling. I need to see some good combination with your teammates. I need to see some good passes. I need to see some good runs to the back line, something. But he gives us none of that. All he gives us is crosses. And if you're just going to want a player who just sends crosses to the box, just bring anybody from Barca Athletic. Any player in Barca Athletic or the Juvenil A or even the Juvenil B could do what Rafinha does, which send crosses into the box. Any player could do that. But not someone who costs you 60 million euros. So yes, I'm very happy with his passion and how much he runs, but that's not enough. Otherwise, let's just, sign a bunch of marathon players and just have them run up and down the field all night. Arnold says, I saw him play. He's phenomenal on recovering ball, but when it comes to technical ball circulation from the back, he's not that good in it. Okay, I'm guessing you're talking about Ndidi. The reason why, and this is something that we saw with Oriol Romeo when he first started the season, the reason why a lot of times we see these players who are really good recovering the ball, but not necessarily good with technical ball circulation is the Premier League uses their pivots differently than Barcelona, right? The main job of a pivot or a defensive midfielder in the Premier League is that, defend. That's it. Someone who just stops the attack, who tackles, who recovers the ball, and that's it. Versus Barcelona, where the pivot is more someone where the whole team kind of revolves around, right? Someone who, yes, defends, tackles, recovers the ball, but is someone who also distributes the ball, circulates the ball, and sets the tempo for the attack. So this is why a lot of times when we see pivots, and it's something what we saw with Oriol Romeo when he first started in Barcelona, where we saw him, he was superb defensively speaking, but not when he was circulating the ball, is because he played many years in the Premier League, and in the Premier League, he had to adapt his game to how the Premier League plays it. So that's why when you watch these pivots, you might not see that technical ability because they're not required to show it. Doesn't mean he doesn't have it, right? All right, one more, and then we'll do the last bit of segment of news. And Met Plays says, we at least need a forward who can dribble past his opponents and be creative with his passes inside the box. And he can also be trusted with long shot like Vini for real. Doku for City and Salah for Liverpool. I agree. And that's not Rafinha. And this is why, I've always said that he's not Barca level. Okay, let's see. Let's do one little bit of tiny, short bit of news. And it is about the legendary Carlos Puyol, who just gave an interesting interview where he spoke about a myriad of things. But one thing that caught my attention was what he said about Vinicius Jr. Now, we all know Vinicius Jr. is constantly in the headlines, whether it's for the racist chants that he unfortunately continues to receive from retarded fans or dumbass fans, whatever you want to call them. But also he's in the headlines a lot because of the way he behaves, constantly taunting opposing players, taunting coaches, taunting the fans, always running his mouth, screaming, insulting people, even the referees. He's constantly in the headline for that. It's very, very unfortunate because Vinicius Jr. is a world-class player. He's probably one of the best wingers out there in the world. And to see that performance, those skills, that talent completely being overshadowed by the way he behaves on the field, it's sad, it's unfortunate. And that's something that Carlos Puyol spoke about in his interview. And more specifically, he said, and I will make this bigger, he said, I would love to talk to him as a fellow footballer and tell him what I think, what I feel. He's a great player who makes a difference and should be admired on every pitch. If he would change his attitude, he would get more recognition. Now, I agree 100% with Carlos Puyol. Again, like I said, I think Vinicius Jr. is an incredibly talented player, one of the best players, one of the best attackers out there in the world. But unfortunately, his constant attitude and his constant clownish behavior completely overshadows his performance, because people remember him for what he was doing on the field, with his bad behavior rather than what he actually contributed to the match. It seems that Carlos Puyol agrees as well, and he says, if Vinicius Jr. is just focused on playing, then he would be recognized a lot more on the fields and admired by fans versus being hated by the way he behaves. So I agree with that, but I think I do have to disagree on one thing. I think I do prefer him being a clown and behaving the way he does, because after all, ever since he started behaving like that, Vinicius has been a ghost, right? It's been Jude Bellingham who's been carrying Madrid. Vinicius Jr. has been completely gone because it seems like he's more interested in being a clown than a football player. So honestly, I say, as much as I hate the way he acts, for me, honestly, Vinicius Jr., please continue acting like that, because the more you act like that, the more you forget about playing football. And the more you forget about playing football, well, the better for us Barcelona fans, because then we don't have to deal with you on the pitch. We only have to deal with you with your attitude, but that's okay. All right, so that is all the news. Let's do a few more comments, and then we will wrap it up. Let's see, where did we leave off? Barca Vibe says, Vini is a clown, will never earn their respect. I mean, again, if he matured and focused on just playing, then maybe, but I would rather him continue being a clown, because the more clown he is, the less of a threat he is on the field, football-wise. Matt Play says, I don't even think Felix is a player that can be Barca future. He's sometimes good in dribble, but most of the time he's slow, and even slow in dribbling. And that's why he always flop the attack. I was very excited when we first signed Joao, but he has been very inconsistent. He's had matches where he's excellent and then matches where he's not, right? And it's been like this, which is a little bit worrying to me. Now, of course, it's too early to pass a judgment. It's only been, 11, 12 matches in La Liga. It is a new team. He still has to adapt. So I think it's a little too early to say, okay, yeah, he's not good or he is good. But he has been a little bit inconsistent, and it is worrying because he was inconsistent at Chelsea and he was inconsistent at Atletico de Madrid. So that's what worries me. Had he played good at Atletico, had he played good at Chelsea, and then he comes to Barcelona and starts being inconsistent, I'm like, that's fine. He's new, he's still adapting. But if you're seeing inconsistency and you've seen it before at other teams, that's when you start thinking, okay, maybe it's not an adaptation issue. Maybe it's just him, right? But again, it's too early. It's only been 12 matches in La Liga. Let's wait at least until halfway through and see and reevaluate. But I have been a little bit worried about Joao. But let's see. Who knows? He might hit his stride and start performing, every match. Not at least every match. I always say you cannot expect players to play perfect matches every single match. It's humanly impossible. Even Messi had horrible matches. But what you want to see is at least, 80, 85% of their matches, where they're performing well. And then the rest, the other 10 or 20%, they can, ghost, because it happens. Everybody has a bad day. But when it's like one match good, one match bad, one match good, two matches bad, That's when you start worrying a little bit. But again, let's wait and see. Tim says, fans' behavior is just reflection of his behavior. Vini would get suspension already a few times if he would be playing for some other club. I agree. It still does not excuse the racist chants that he continues to receive. You know, I agree that he's insufferable, that he's a horrible athlete as far as his sportsmanship-like conduct, but that does not excuse people calling him a monkey. You know, if you want to insult him, you can insult him, but there's no need to go the racial way. Carlos says, do you think Cancelo should be benched? I know he's been playing a lot, but he's not making a difference. Just play with 3 defenders. They stop everything. I really do think Cancelo needs to rest. I mean, this guy, he finally got subbed out during Real Sociedad, but this guy has played 90 minutes of every match. I really think he needs some rest. Plus, he played with Portugal both matches in the last international break. So I really, really think he needs a break. Okay, that is it for tonight, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments, for your likes, for your subscriptions, and for your support. Again, I am officially back home and in my YouTube studio, so it's back to your regularly scheduled videos and live streams. So tomorrow, Champions League match, there will be a post-match live analysis, so stay tuned for that. And of course, at night, I'll do the regular news video. So 2 videos for tomorrow. I will see you in those videos. Have a good night or good morning, wherever you are in the world. And as always, Visca Barça.